we had something interesting happen. Let me show you this first. We decided to sand the headstock. That was the all black stain, and then I did it similar to how I did the body. I think this turned out so awesome, and I really liked the way that looked. Liked it so much, in fact, that I couldn't replicate it on the body. I tried a few different times off camera. Well, I should say I filmed some of it, but it was looking like garbage when I tried to apply more. So we went and did this. I think it's gonna be worth it though. Alright, so here is a bit of an update. We see the finished die of the neck and the body. And we ended up, I think I may have showed this, but I'll just show it again. We ended up sanding this down. It was originally a like oil stained back that was black. Once I did that front with that die, I just kind of fell in love with how that looked, and I ended up just sanding it and redoing it. So happy with that. You know, it's a little bit extra work, but I don't mind if it makes it look awesome. Now for the neck, haven't shown much of the neck because we were having some issues with it drying. I did show the headstock. This is slightly different because what we did is I ended up sanding this back as well. This again was a oil stained neck, and I just kind of fell in love with how that dye looked on it, and it was so much easier to work with, so that was just a plus. I just like the way that that pops through with the wood grain, kind of like a ashy charcoaly kind of black or gray. I just really like that. And like I said, we were having trouble with stuff drying, so that was part of the reason we did it. And I dyed the fretboard with, well, I should say I stained it with the stain, and that was a nightmare, and that took forever to get off. I saw a video of a guy using the same kind of thing, and he got really good results, but I ended up taking everything off that was with that stain, and I just used the red dye, and I ended up doing the fretboard too. I originally was going to leave it rosewood, but I got a little bit of that black on there doing the neck, and it ended up looking really good. And now that we're done that, we're ready for our finish. So I'm going to go with tung oil. That's something that I see a lot of people use. Alright, so what I have this sitting on my Music Nomad neck cradle. That way it'll let me access the whole guitar. I just gotta be really careful because it's not the most sturdy. But yeah, we're gonna begin getting that finish. Good, I'm just gonna do a wipe on this thing real quick just to get off any excess dust. Before we apply the finish. All right. Alright, so this is about 24 hours, a little over later, and it's nice and dry. And we are getting quite a bit of a nice shine on there, but still needs a little bit more, I think. And there's slight rough areas around the edges, mainly a little bit in the middle here. So I'm gonna do some light sanding, smooth it out some, apply another coat to the sides and the front. Same here, really around these edges. I probably just didn't get very good sanding there when I was working on it, but we're going to try to remedy that with a light sanding, and then we'll put another coat of tung oil on. I think the neck is pretty good though. That I don't think needs any more. I am still going to sand this back a tiny bit. That was the plan initially anyway. I'm going to do a light sanding here just to kind of smooth it out and make it more of a matte finish. It looks great now, but I think comfort-wise it's going to be a little bit better with a slightly smoother area. That'll help get out some of these little hairs that kind of stuck to the finish. Tried to get as much of that junk off as I could, but you know, stuff happens. So we'll move on to that. We'll get some light sanding on these areas and we'll apply another coat. Like I said, I think the neck is good. I think I'm going to move on to just doing the front here, and then that'll be pretty good to go after the sanding. So let's move on and get that sanded and apply another coat. Okay, so I'm going to start the sanding here. I do have some high grit sandpaper. I have some 5000 grit here, and then I also have a 3000 grit here. These are the 5000. I'm going to start off with that just to see how that does, and if I need to go a little more aggressive, I'll move to the 3000. I think this might do though. We're just going to see how it does on this edge here, and then depending on that, we'll move up if we need to. right, so I don't think I've shown it yet in its full glory. So sorry about the ring light you can see in there, but you can still get a good idea of how the finish is looking. Super excited how it turned out. Yeah, kind of browned a little bit, that red color, once we put the clear on there, but you know, that was to be expected. I still think it turned out beautiful, and I'm super happy with how it's looking. There is still some areas of imperfections in the finish, some slight areas where you can feel some dust, and you can see it if you're looking real closely. I did go back and forth a lot with this final clear coat. I'd get it to a point where it looked great, and I would say to myself, well, I can probably do better, and then I'd attempt it again, and it kind of sent me a couple steps back. So I got it to a really good place, and I said, you know what, it looks awesome, and I'm super happy with it. We're going to leave it there. I took some of the imperfections and did a quick buff with some steel wool to bring some of that down, then buffed it out with some buffing compound, and I'm super happy how that looks now. So now we can get on with electronics, putting our accessories, hardware on, and then we should be in demo territory, see how it sounds and feels. So let's get going, and I'm super excited to see how that turns out. So let's get going. Alright, we're going to attempt to get this pickguard cut. I'm going to cut it about right here all the way down, and that way I don't have to use these as the pickup rings, and it'll expose more of the body, and I'm sort of making it kind of like a Jackson pickguard as opposed to like this Gibson. So what I'm going to try first, I do have a router and a hand saw, and that's kind of some ways I saw people do it. Excuse me, but I'm going to try to use a heat gun and just heat it up slightly and try to use these really sharp scissors and see if that works. I have done stuff in the past with different plastics, and that seemed to work pretty well, so I'm going to try that with this and hopefully we get results. I just find it might be a little bit easier than breaking out the router, and I'm not that experienced with a router, so since this is the only one I have, I'm going to attempt that. And what I'm thinking of doing is I have my line here. I don't know if you can see it very well. I'm going to heat it up, but I'm going to cut it a lot farther out just in case I do wreck some of this area here. And then I'm going to use some sandpaper and smooth it down and get close to that line. And we'll see how that goes. So we'll attempt that. So I got it all cut, and it's pretty close, but there's still a little bit of a gap. That way I can sand it down smooth, and then I'm going to try to give it a bevel similar to that. I think we'll be in a good place, so I'm going to use this and some sandpaper. I'll go with 220 at first just to get that down as much as I can. Alright, so we're going to move on to a level and crown, and then some polishing, probably some dressing. The ends of the frets are pretty good, but I'll probably just round them over slightly and smooth them out, polish them. I did check this a little while ago after we disassembled it after our playthrough, and I did notice some fret issues. So I've got the neck straight now, I've got it all taped off, and I'm just going to go through and just so you can kind of hear. Got some rocking there, some issue right there. So that's kind of, since it's going to be that one here, not as bad. Right there. And since it's quite a bit of issues, I want to just do the whole board. Plus it's just a little easier for me because I got the large beam. I do have a smaller beam, but it's not quite as nice as this one. So you can see this one is from Crimson, and I haven't used it yet, but I'm excited. I actually got an official nice beam. That other beam from Amazon. I got a little small one, and it's just not quite as nice. And I used in the past a level and just smoothed out the edge and taped it off and put some paper on there. And it worked good, but I'm just excited to have like an actual beam. So as you can see, we did hear quite a bit of issues. There's one there, kind of. It's not quite that bad. Another one there, I think. Yep. So yeah, since we already have, identified quite a bit of issues, pretty much around the whole neck, I'm going to go ahead and mark all these off. And then we're going to do our leveling. The thing I've learned in the past is you don't want to put too much downward pressure, really none at all, and that's part of an issue that I've had prior. I do that, just natural instinct. I'm trying not to. I had a guitar while I was practicing my first few, level and reach rounds, and I think my issue was I was really pushing down. And I ended up really flattening those frets, and the higher register especially, it's super hard to play. So soon in the future I might do a project where I refret that. And it was a cheap guitar. I kind of got it for those purposes, just to practice on, so not a huge deal, but something that we learn from. Board, and then we're just trying to see exactly what we need to work on. So it did pretty well, but as you can see, as we work down it, we do have a little bit here we got to take off some more, a little bit here, a little bit here. This one, quite a bit more. That is like almost half the fret, needs additional attention. And there's one down here that almost is not touched, so, well, slightly, so maybe just a couple more passes on that actually. Perfect, all right. You're in good shape with that now. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to crown them. So what we have to do now is I'm going to remark them. Alright, so I do have some crowning files here. I have a couple different ones. this is the one I started with. This is a Fret Guru one. Got it on Amazon, and it worked pretty good. I did have some issues with it. Depending on the guitar, it was super hard to get a crown. It would use in either of these sides. So you have one that's a large and extra large fret size. The other ones are medium and large. So there's been a couple guitars that I've used for some reason. I don't know if it was the leveling I did, but it took multiple tries to finally get a crown. It may have just been me pushing too hard, perhaps. Like I said, the design of this one is not comfortable, so that could be it. I might have just not been holding it correctly and pushing down too hard, but it would end up eating into the top of the frets, and then I have to redo it. But it worked, you know. After a few tries, I got the hang of it. I did get this one after that. This is also from Amazon. This is the Baroque Diamond fret file, and this one also has multiple sizes. And the only thing with this one is it's kind of hard to tell when you're in the moment. And there's been a couple times where I was, you know, filing and accidentally switched up and then did a smaller size. So I did mark it. I don't know if you can see it here. Mark the one that primarily I'll use. This is the normal fret size. You have a super small one for like ukuleles, mandolins, and you have one for like, I guess, bass frets, or maybe jumbo frets. So I did mark that. That helped me. And this one works a lot better, I think, than the Fret Guru one. And I did get this one from Crimson Guitars. So it's like a three-sided one. Three-sided. And I haven't tried this one yet. I'm a man with limited abilities, so this one seems like it might be a little bit more work for me, a little bit harder to use, but I did get it just to maybe try it out. Alright, so it looks like this file did awesome. So I did get that all squared away, so we have a level crown, and then I did my fret leveling file, my fret dressing file from StewMac, and we just rounded over these fret ends just for comfort, just slightly better. And so now I'm going to go ahead and give these a polish, and I'm going to get that underway really good. I'm going to start off with some fret erasers. I have a 400 grit all the way, a 180 grit all the way up to a 2000 grit. So I'll go through and go with the grits, and then I might do some steel wool, and then I have some different grits of sandpaper. Just try to get those as shiny and smooth as possible. So we're going to get that started here. Alright, so that's how our pickguard turned out. I'm not sure if I've shown it yet. Just got to add some holes here, but I'm going to just kind of get it in place, get our harness on there, and then we'll start the wiring and everything, and then I'm going to put these screw holes in once everything's in place. That way I can maximize and make sure that everything is in the correct place before I make any holes. Because knowing me, I get overzealous and I don't want that to happen, and I don't want to make a mistake on that part, because that would suck. But here's our harness. So, you know, it's a volume tone, our output jack, and our three-way. These knobs are going. I just got them because they were free basically. And we're gonna put these knobs on. I got a set of the dime bag knobs, and they're super cool. Speed knobs, and they have the solder burns on there. I could have made them myself probably, but found them on Reverb pretty cheap, so I just got them. Less hassle I have to deal with. So that is our pick guard. We have everything in place. I didn't snug down these things too tight, but you know, tight enough for right now until I get the wiring done. I am gonna unsolder this to feed it through our hole here. That way we can put that in place, and then we'll install these, and that way we can get our ground wire in place. May wire pickups before we do that portion, but we'll get that going. Alright, so we got the pickups in, everything is wired in. Gonna go ahead and get these holes put in there shortly. I'm just trying to get the nut in place. That way we can get the string alignment good. That way we know exactly where we need to mount these pickups. And I'll go and drill those holes, and I'll put the tuners on, all that. What I did do is I took the old nut, got the string alignment pretty good, comparable at least. I just put some tape around it. That's just going to allow me to kind of mark off exactly what I need to take down. At least an idea of what I need to take down on the sides. The height and everything of the nut and all that is good. So I just have to take off a little bit of these sides. I'm going to get them down as much as I can, and then we'll touch it up when the light's glued in. Alright, so we have the nut filed down pretty well. We'll get it a little closer when we get it installed. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the tuners on, just the high E, low E, and and then we'll put some strings on just for alignment purposes, and then we'll get these set sort of in place and marked where we need to screw, or drill I should say, and screw in place. Okay, we ran out of room on the card, so I did do one thing off camera. That was pretty much just gluing this nut down. So now we have that in place, so that's good to go. What I'm going to work on now is getting all this in place. So I'm going to drill some pilot holes, get those all lined up, and then we'll be able to screw those in place. Alright, so here it is, and it's full glory. And I'm just so happy with the results. It just turned out so much better than I expected, and I'm super excited to try another project down the road. I have a couple models in mind, so stay tuned. I'll probably be announcing something in the next couple months, my next build. And I got it all set up, and I'm really enjoying how it's playing. I kind of like my action on a little higher of a side than most people might like, so it's just playing great. I plugged it in briefly before just to make sure that the setup was good before I committed to anything to video. This is just going to be a somewhat quick, rough sound sample. Same amp and pedals and mic that I used prior. So this is my Black Star Studio 10 with KT88s. We're going to go with flashback and Hall of Fame reverb and delay. I have a tube screamer on the floor that will kick on eventually. The mic is a SM57 clone, and we're just going to do kind of down and dirty, some sound samples. Not going to go into clean or anything right now. I think I'm just going to keep it distorted because this is kind of what I built the guitar for. I wanted to have a heavy rock guitar. And I'm going to do another video after this one. Will be the last video of this whole build. Just a A-B comparison of what this guitar was before. I recorded a kind of produced somewhat song snippet, and I'm going to play it with that guitar, or I did play it with that guitar. And I'm going to play with this one, and we're just going to hear them back to back and just kind of see what that might sound like. So without further ado, I'm going to just kick on. Oh, before I do that, I do want to share one thing that we discovered during the build. The pickups, they're awesome. They sound great. This is the bridge. Neck. They sound good. The neck pickup, however, microphonic, so that's a bit disappointing, but it does sound good. The bridge is fine, no issues there. I could have emailed the company and had them send out another one, but I didn't want to prolong the video any further. Just wanted to get everything out there. And like I said, it does sound good. It sounds has a nice sweet tone. So I definitely dig that. And I figured I might try to wax this in the future and see if that takes care of all that. And that'll just be another learning experience up my sleeve. So just wanted to note that you might get a little feedback when I kick on the tube screamer with that one. Or hopefully not horrible, so we'll see. But this is a bridge. I'm just going to play some riffs. I'll play something similar to what I played in the before video, and then I might just jam off a little bit. So this is with the gain. We'll go just a little bit above 12 o'clock, so about 1 o'clock. Touch of reverb on the amp, and let's just go. So it's about 1 o'clock. We're gonna go. We'll go about 2 o'clock. This is where I usually like it, around 2 or 3, and we'll try that same kind of riff. Dial back the gain a tiny bit. I'm going to kick on the tube screamer, and we'll try that same thing with that just so you can see how it tightens up a little bit. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna just dial back the reverb on the amp a little bit. I'm gonna put it on my pedal just because that's a little heavier of a delay. Yeah, I'm sorry, heavier of a reverb, and we'll just do some kind of jam with it. Lead setting there. That's probably around what I would use for that. Alright, we're going to try something a little different. We'll try something a little heavier, thrashy, metallic-y. We'll close it out with that. We'll have some fun. So